Yeah, okay, yeah. I want to say something about the thing about the equator. I'm kind of focusing quite a bit on it that way. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I was thinking about the 5 star um inspector general, the 10 stars on both sides of the shoulder, totally 10 stars, and what that really is to the Pentagon and the equator is seemingly the Subaru thing and like I'm assuming, although Sydney, Australia, I'm thinking that would probably be the thought of just the information that's available. Because Sydney, Australia, and the Subaru thing about the 5 stars and really what that is below the equator, um, as compared to what a degree level might only be a perception of, or that way of polarity, um, and magnetism that way. Um, Yeah, something about the yeah, surfing the web, ultimately getting to the tube, and before I go any further than the yin yang thing, it's like it's kind of like I like the sprite. It's a design on the sprite, okay, and a little bit of humor about yeah. I'll have another another amphibious J. Edgar Hoover impedance and ambience 13-band graphic equalizer watt sprite, yeah, a watt sprite, yeah, about the JJ thing and designed that symbolic representation, the symbol that I don't know if I'd really call it an emblem, although it's a design made from the bottle cap itself of the 21-ounce bottle of Sprite, and it looks like an eccentric type of boomerang. And my thought about that, uh, you know, um, maybe I mean, if it has to represent both, well then that would probably be the hop scene, the jaywalk of amphibious. Not really walking at all. The pronunciation of like Oriental food involving a walk. Amphibious thing about somewhere in between Wyatt Earp and yeah, John Wayne, and beyond the panning for gold thing of the Delta Force, the biggest mouth of the river type of thing, and the triangle being only a 3 point of schematics involving the delta representing the triangle, or one side of a pyramid, and what that is to the U.S. dollar. Anyway, in the Star of David and Deep Star 6 that way. Yeah, so I mean, I went on and on about that, but I just want to say something about the Inspector General that way, because ultimately it's gotten to the point to where, I mean, really, I mean, if it's all about, God foretold the ending from the beginning, I mean, you got to be kidding me, okay? I mean, is it like really getting to the hopscotch technology, huh? Yeah, um, yeah, the sidewalk thing, yeah, it's amazingly true. Many things about that. Um, yeah, or the thing about the waveform of the double alignment of parallel universe type of um, parallel bars as compared to the waveform of the parallel like waveform of the jump rope thing, the two rope and the hopscotch thing. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So like there was something about that, and I was thinking about that because of ultimately what SSI is suggested as I've seen it benefits of SSI suggested as involving a handicap. I don't necessarily agree with quite a bit. I mean, although it does provide the information, I've seen it and read it that sometimes not even have a source of funding that is available, not necessarily requiring handicap anything at all. I mean, I have read that, okay, and that's the thing. It's kind of like being in a law library um, for years and looking at Vernon's state Texas statute, Vernon's state statutes annotated, okay, predominantly Texas, of course. But anyway, yeah. So like I was like really mainly focusing and looking more at the United States Supreme Court Southwest Court Reporter, all about that one word de facto, and reading quite a bit about it. Although litigation is the word. Um, normally corporate decisions in corporate venue normally doesn't even involve something that would give the appearance of as far as I'm normally, I mean, if it's going to be like the deal of a question of whether it's going to be honored, granted, or anything, or if the thought of enforcement would only be maybe only when annotation is involving what jurisprudence might even suggest as leverage, or what jurisprudence might even mean in that way. of annotation, whether or not if that's going to really be a factor of enforcement, or, or something of intellectual duration that represents something other than like any accusation or responsibility of any participation, directing. Yeah, so I mean, really all that stuff about practicing law. Um, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, I was thinking about something about the the the, the inspector general about the 5 stars and what that is above and below the equator as compared to the 5 star on each side of the shoulder. Um, I mean, ultimately, is that ultimately getting to the code blue thing about head and shoulders? I mean, what's the deal? I mean, really, I mean, it's. I mean, is it really the head and shoulder thing about the 5 star shampoo being 87 in truth? Um, anyway, yeah. So anyway, I'm not even gonna go there right now. I hadn't even really thought about it. Just like something like a spontaneous deal, about obviously having an inaugural well of awesome thing about it's not so eccentric that it diminishes the value of on-site location or Vantage Love 30 or secret de facto 30 or what a marginal spread is of the tennis court as compared to a 9-degree right angle of the baseball, and the seemingly so thing about the Will of Awesome, the inaugural thing about the Well of Awesome and what that is to maybe some thought of um yeah. In any case, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I was thinking about that in a way of marginal spread, Y2K technology, and the 90 degree. Ultimately, getting to the deal about the perfect 10-10 vision is ultimately what that 90 degree right angle really is about. It's perfect 10-10 vision of infinity and the infinite lines, and yeah, sometimes even the unseen thing about it. And yeah, so anyway, yeah, so I was like thinking about the Australia thing, the Subaru and the 5 stars. Um, and what that is to an inspector general or even the US dollar or the euro dollar and the US dollar or and I hadn't really put too much thought in it, and the head and shoulder thing about the shampoo just being the truth as compared to the Well of Awesome was kind of like if I'm not mistaken, I'll actually have to think about it, and I haven't really went and looked at any files, but I think it's the one where they said uh, they told 2 friends and they told 2 friends and so on and so on and so on. I think that's the Well of Awesome. I think Heather Locklear. I'm real sure. Anyway, in any case, I think Heather Locklear did one of the commercials. But anyway, I mean, if it's ultimately getting to the deal about irrational or something about the ground rule double in a way of like a Vantage Love 30, um, and the baseball and the seams, being virtually identical, but yet given the same principle of practical application, being a ball being used in a sport. Although the seams are shaped the same, but the stitches as compared to the although design may be seen as one and the same yet different based upon its practical application that way. Anyway, so I was kind of thinking about that because of maybe what that is to Sarbanes-Oxley, financial instruments and SOX compliance, okay, and what that is to the inspector general, what the 5 star is on each side, or some 90-degree right angle about what polarity is, in that way. Um, yeah, so I mean, automatically it's like an Australia deal, um, with a 90 degree, because 90 degree. I mean, ultimately, I'd mentioned, like Abraham Lincoln, being the night vision about a president studying in the dark, ultimately going through the Richard Nixon. I've explained a little bit about that, and ultimately getting to the Lincoln Continental on that rectangle, the vertical thing about it. And my thing about the 1992 map and the horizontal, and I'd mentioned like land local area networks and wide area networks, but the horizontal rectangle of, like, in my mind, like granite, like identifying like high-rise buildings and you know big like commercial venue. And it was kind of like the deal about the almost like a principle of the national deficit of, like, Vernon's. I'd studied, I was like really like going into the U.S. Supreme Court about de facto, and I'd read so many cases that ultimately it had gotten to that General Motors, I mean, completely. I mean, I got to the point, why read anything else other than what was involving General Motors? It was how much General Motors was involved with, like, litigation, and how true it is, if that is even really involving really at all, even the United States Supreme Court. I mean, corporate law really is corporate law in its own way. Not necessarily a venue that might suggest anything other than below a degree level. Not really accused of even participating or involved with like international banking systems. Yeah, or the degree level only what, opportunity only might mean all the way up, below a degree level, all the way, to the Supreme Court that way. In any case, yeah, so I was thinking about that, in the Inspector General that way, or what that is to an SAT, an entrance exam of a minimum, the highest possible score of 2,400. And, likewise, what 2,400 is to, once again, like even like the deal about Nostradamus and the Persian Gulf, and something in my mind of Oracle Cybele and the middleware, or what the middleware is to like Technicolor and the pastel, um, being 73 and Harris and, Israeli and all that stuff about pastel and 73 in Union and stuff like that in that way. And, so like thinking about something about the Persian Gulf and because of, I was like looking at something, and at the time when I was looking at, I was getting like Westlaw, free, the international law, not a version of like what might be the unfortunate experience of like local area networks or wide area networks, or thoroughly a hypothetical illusion of what World Wide Web might only suggest. Um, but anyway, I was like getting it. Getting into like international law. It's very much explained. It's not like a masterminded issue of cross-referencing or integration. According, to what I was reading in Westlaw. Like when I was studying to be a paralegal, it was like suggested that, at some places that make it available is like 125 an hour. How true that is, I'm really not sure. But anyway, like I was here at my home and I was like looking for it. I was just like all of a sudden I was getting it for free. I thought, hey, so like I was really on it for quite some time until, that was just like a, hey, where'd it go thing, yeah. So anyway, so likewise, I was kind of like really getting into it that way because it's not like a bunch of case presents that suggests, all the way up to the Supreme Court, would be just a bunch of case presents of, you know, um, whether settlement was even involved in anything other than maybe awarding an opinionated decision, not even suggesting anything other than arbitration and negotiation, not necessarily enforcing codes, and the way of what overruling an opinionated decision is. And sometimes, I'm sure that might be, you know, the accusation. If that's maybe the issue or of grace or consideration or, you know, um, everything involved. It would be obviously the thought of maybe what they, tolerance might only suggest maybe, anything other than, the degree level of, hey, there's not excuse. Absolutely not at all kind of like thing. But anyway, the thing with this is that really, yeah, so, I was like reading a bunch of Westlaw of international, normally focusing on like the securities and annuities, as compared to like storage area network and SAN software or what international financial management and terminology in that way. More so about that and looking for the methods of financial and investment terminology, focusing on electronic distribution and currency as compared to maybe attaching what might be some borrower's terminology of like the word financial of international financial management, and ultimately virtually almost repeatedly always the issue of like just being in the bank itself. Yeah, so really, even at certain levels of like even investment or what a financial advisor might you're talking you say you're a broker. Well, that might be not necessarily the economic plea bargain, Ponzi scheming, raffling voucher, and um, auctioneering, clearance, and warehousing. You say you're a broker, right? Yeah, is that what you're really trying to say? It's really not an economic plea bargain. Ponzi scheming, raffling voucher of like auctioneering, clearance, and warehousing. Like, are you sure? Are you still a broker? Yeah, a brokerage. Yeah, sure you are. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So the thing with this is that I was thinking about the inspector general under the 5 stars, and how 5 sides represents the Pentagon, and the thing about going beyond calculus, and that Alphanex in '92, what it is to attenuation in the way of like of a drummer, processing speed, and the alphanumerics of 92, like a drummer, and everything that's involved with like tempo and notation, like processing speed. Of waveform, of a conductor, being a drumstick, or even, symphony of like conductor, and the deal about the thermocoupled semiconductor as compared to the integrating practical application of like both. I mean, it's still, the interchangeability of virtually almost what would give the impression of almost the exact opposite based upon practical application, and still represent the same of integration and compatibility. I mean, so much, very much so in that way. But yeah, and yeah. So I was like thinking about that, and what that is to the 5 star on each side of, the inspector general. If it's the inspector general, or the just general itself, and in the way, with how many levels or stars, whatever. In any case, it's kind of like you got to become. It's like the Ed McMahon, the Big Ten winner, huh? What I-10 is to the inspector general, huh? The 5 star, or what, the 5 star of Subaru is Australia, and I'm thinking about how the euro dollar seems to have some significance, directing a little bit further that way about it. Yeah. So anyway, so like I wanted to clue that in, and it's already going on like 16 minutes and like 15 seconds. So anyway, I might think about it a little bit. I just want to put that in there real quick because um, the thing, it seems to be, I'm trying to actually place. I kind of like was grasping the thought about, but I was like focusing on the wide area the wide area network in the way of the rectangle and the Lincoln Continental. And I'm actually going to have to put a little bit more time into the Lincoln being the pronunciation of kennel and colonel, and the R issue about the between the county and the country, and the R thing about, Lincoln, President Abraham Lincoln, the night vision thing about the Lincoln Continental and the rectangle, and the accuracy of the field scope and range of law that way, or the 90 degree of the rectangle, being like the wide area network, the wide thing about wide world sports, um, hmm, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I'm thinking about that, and that 1992 map about the rectangle, the horizontal rectangle, like all over the United States, and likewise, it's like the word seclorum, nobis seclorum, spelt with two U's. The word seclorum spelt with two U's, and how true it is before that, I'm not sure. But when I really started noticing it, was 1992, because I really started looking for a whole lot of answers that way. Um, yeah, so that's when I really noticed it. How true? How long before? If it's like spelt with two U2s, seclorum, instead of an O and a U, the U2 thing. And the thing with it is that if it ultimately is getting to the inspector general and the 5 star, or what the Big Ten is, the I-10, or binary numbers, or ACTP : // that way, or what the vertical deal is about the colon, and like Australia, and my thought of what euro dollar would be to a 90 degree angle of I-10. It's like a 90 degree of longitude as compared to horizontally of latitude. Yeah, that way. And what the equator is, of the absolute, it's supposed to be like almost the same, or give the impression of the same of a 90 degree of an equator as compared to every. It's like 1 to however many longitudes, like all the way around the Earth and the globe that way, as compared to that one equator. So the 90 degree about that, and something I'm thinking about the inspector general and the stars, the 5 stars on each side, being the Big Ten winner thing, huh? Well, if it's really, going to go a little bit, like, hey, I thought maybe I'd include, yes, an entire highway of, like, eternal, yes, electronic power, and everything needs to be, the eternal structures and buildings, like on both sides, yeah, yeah, and the, yes, 75 floor Visions high rise, yes, high rise, tower building, yeah, the Visions Tower high rise building, yeah. Yeah. And great. Well, anyway, yeah. So like, it was like all that good stuff here about. So like, hey, hey, like I'm in a good mood, right? Well, anyway, yeah. So yeah. So I was like thinking about that because I was thinking about something about the visions in the way of the alphanumerics of vision being 88 and visions being 107. Kind of like the kind of road I'm on right now. Okay, but anyway, and the deal about the New Deal, Roosevelt New Deal Act, and what it is to vision in 88 that way. The Mormon, the 88, and the California thing, and the Roosevelt New Deal Act. I'm looking at the sixth thing, the 6 year, the 6 presidential terms in office, and from ABC 13 Houston to ABC 7 Los Angeles to 6, and the Apple iPhone 6s, and yeah, there's some other stuff about that, and what 6 spelled out is 52 to the Arisa statute as compared to the IRA. And what the equator is in the way of horizontal, or the rectangle, as compared to the longitude, like all the way around, the entire globe. So anyway, it's something like new, real quick about it. But I wanted to like put that in there real quick because I mean, as far as like symbolic representation, it's kind of like a yeah. I'll have another amphibious yes, J. Edgar Hoover yes yes another amphibious yes another amphibious J. Edgar Hoover impedance and ambience 13 band graphic equalizer white sprite because I like sprite new because the symbol on there it looks like two J's. Something about surfing that way. Normally seen with like surfers and the internet and the tube that way. And the seashell. I mean, all the connectivity about the seashell and the beachfront and that sound effect about it. Yeah. So I mean, it gives the impression of the eardrum and the seashell of the design, except maybe what would be maybe what would represent a cycle above and below, like half is half. But not limited to, kind of like design of, the JJ or an eccentric retro type of like boomerang. But anyway, that's the design on the Sprite that I'm talking about, made with the actual cap of a 21-ounce bottle of Sprite. But anyway, yeah, so I was kind of like thinking about that because a little bit of amphibious J. Edgar Hoover, impedance and ambience, nano luminous, yeah. White Sprite, yeah. So anyway, yeah, there it is, and I'm going to go ahead and take a break because it's already, I just want to put that in there real quick because I'm going to take a break and decide if I'm going to light up the effects lighting and do it again. Hey, all right, there it is, yeah.